So I want to know, do you think are mentally less superior than men or only physically? It's still systematic because you're saying that it's overall, and you're saying that's affecting their decisions as individuals when that doesn't apply to all necessarily. That's just something that might happen sometimes, and you can see a situation where, okay, this woman doesn't understand the pecking order of a basketball game. Maybe it's because they're too short to play basketball. Obviously, they can't play basketball. They don't have that choice. They're physically less superior, but that doesn't make them mentally less capable of understanding the situation. You know what I mean?
Men and are different. Does that mean that there are that could do what men do and can be geniuses and rocket scientists? Sure, but there's not enough of them to go around. That's my point.
So I think a lot of the reasons people have like not being able to, beat you in a debate, like I don't want to be here to beat you. I'm here to understand kind of some of your points. So I think you have really strong reasoning, but the problem is like your conclusions, you're taking overgeneralizations and then making them an individual person's problem when really it's a systemic issue and not something that a lot of people have control of. Like, for example, equality, you're saying women don't want to be in positions of power when really it's a systemic issue of them historically not having the opportunity of a position of power. You know what I mean?
I would argue they have way more opportunity than ever before.
You mean right now or historically?
Yeah, than right now, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree. So I want to know, do you think are mentally less superior than men or only physically?
Well, the thing is this. We think differently, okay? And since we think differently, that is going to obviously change the way that we view the world. So, for example, tends to be more communitarian, right? They yearn for security. Why is that? Because they're physically weaker than men. So the collective is very important to them. This is why they tend to vote Democrat. This is why they tend to be more socialist. This is why they tend to look for social programs, social welfare programs, versus men tend to be more, in reality, about meritocracy. And you got to go out there and get it yourself, right? So that obviously applies itself to the way that vote or view the world or whatever. Now, there's some women out there that might look at meritocracy better. These tend to have, a stronger father in place, or maybe they're strong masculine.
Could you define meritocracy?
Background?
I don't know what that means.
Like basically like a pecking order, like 1, 2, 3. So like, Tom, you did the best, you get paid $10. You did second best, you get $8. So like men understand dominance hierarchies, right?
Sure.
Like when you play pickup basketball,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I get pick first, you get ball first. Cool. So men go ahead and pick, all right, I'm taking him first. Like we understand this because we compete all the time.
Yeah.
Don't really operate that way. Like, and they showed this with like kids. When little kids play, girls, they do hopscotch, jump rope, patty cake, games that don't play dolls, games that don't really have a definitive winner. With boys, they play things where there's competition because it's in our nature.
Okay, all right. Can I say this? I think the problem with that is you're saying don't operate that way as a statement that's overarching all when it's really a statement.
Okay,
that applies to some.
We got to operate generalities.
Some, I think
generalities. In general, don't have the same proclivity to understand and respect meritocracy to the same degree that men do because we live in it. They participate in it when they want. We must be in it whether we like it or not. We must compete. They don't have to.
I think that's true, and I think that must comes from, a historical problem, but I think it's still systematic because you're saying that it's overall, and you're saying that's affecting their decisions as individuals when that doesn't apply to all necessarily. That's just something that might happen sometimes, and you can see a situation where, okay, this woman doesn't understand the pecking order of a basketball game. Maybe it's because they're too short to play basketball. Obviously, they can't play basketball. They don't have that choice. They're physically less superior, but that doesn't make them mentally less capable of understanding the situation. You know what I mean?
Not really. They make a lot of
so?
emotional arguments. You've seen that came on here. What did they say?
I think it was emotional because you were really good at making people angry by overgeneralizing and then making it a personal problem.
Perfect. Notice how even the men, when I triggered them, they were able to somewhat articulate their grievances, but with the they're not. You guys caught on to that? So every time the women walk by, hey, what's your problem? They can never actually articulate what the problem is, right?
Okay.
All they heard was something that they didn't like, triggered, and they didn't like the way I made them feel, but they don't even remember what I said. But with the men, a lot of the times, they get mad or they might get triggered, but they're at least able to recite back to me what triggered them. That's a fundamental difference between men
and do you think that's something that applies to all women across the earth? Or
of course
just the ones
not,
you've talked
but
to?
women are more emotional than men are.
You could say that generally, but I don't think you can say that as an overarching statement for all period.
I never said all.
I think you can.
I never said all.
You say women, and then you never say some.
Okay.
You never say
this is the
most,
IQ
you just
test
say
again.
women.
When
IQ,
I say
okay,
women, I mean in general. It's never going to be all.
Yes.
Nothing is ever going to be all. There's always going to be exceptions. Are there women out there that are brilliant that have, a 150 IQ that are, astrophysicists, whatever. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. But for every one of them, there's going to be 10 men that can do the same.
Do you think this has anything to do with the way that they're raised and the way that culture makes people raise people? Like in America, there's a lot different system of a family than I don't know the culture of another country.
I would argue
to
we
be
encourage
more
to attend school and become just like men and
think
pursue a
that's true.
career, and yet they still aren't involved in certain things. So like
don't
I would
think that's
argue that
true.
are totally encouraged to go and get you know what? More encouraged to go to college and get a career than have a family nowadays. So it's actually the opposite.
You really think that's true?
Absolutely.
Because I think throughout American history, almost every form
I'm
of
talking
media.
about now.
Well, right now, even in media,
right now,
women are still raised
if
as
a
kind
woman
of
was to drop
caretaker
out of
because
school
people like
and have a
you
family,
identifying like that.
most other females would look at her as a failure.
Wait, can you say that one more time? I couldn't. There's people talking about me.
I said, if a woman was, let's say a woman was in college,
Yeah.
and she dropped out to have a family, her female peers would probably look at her as a loser. Like motherhood is no longer respected. That's why birth rates are so low. That's why
That's
pursue
a complete
education.
assumption that doesn't really apply to anything that's happened. I've never heard of that happening ever. You know what I mean?
Okay, there's more. I wrote a book on this. Why I'm deserving even less, by the way.
Really?
Make sure to
Okay.
go get it.
Big author.
Prioritize traveling, having fun, partying, going to school, and getting a career nowadays far more than having a family. Like having a family and finding guys like in 7th place in a woman's hierarchy of needs nowadays or wants.
Okay, so you're still standing by the claim that women are biologically mentally less superior, not because of a culture or in a way they're raised or a particular.
I mean,
piece of
there's some
systemic
biological
issue.
differences that influence
I think
their decision making.
I think the biological difference are restricted to physicality, and then the mental things are problems of a systemic, cultural tradition.
No, because dominate college attendance and they dominate higher education, yet men are still overrepresented in STEM.
I mean, I guess so, but that's just the way it's been for a long time. It's kind of hard to just to have like where the supposed to just all of a sudden like take over and be 50-50. Like that's not realistic. You know what I mean? But I think what's realistic is saying that they are capable.
The thing is
and not
that
saying they're biologically less superior.
Okay, you could look at like the Scandinavian countries, for example. They're even
Right.
more egalitarian than we are. What ends up happening is still go into the same job fields
Sorry,
typically.
I don't know the word egalitarian. What does that mean?
Equality, basically, like in an equal society.
Okay.
It's the concept of equality.
That's
So
in Scandinavia?
yeah, so in Scandinavia, like those countries which are far more progressive than we are, right? They're like 10, 15 years ahead of us.
Sure.
Pretty much are in the workplace, everything else like that. Still go into job fields that women dominate more over there. So even when women are educated, they still go into job fields that tend to deal with people, social work, etc. And then men tend to go into job fields that men typically want,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Women
that's
are interested in people,
fair.
men are interested in things. It's just a biological difference. And those biological differences do shape how we perceive the world and what we go into later on.
Okay, I think that's true. I think it's fair to say that biological differences lead to, decisions in individual decisions. Like a woman is more likely to be maternal and more likely to want to take care of kids and work in a daycare. But if a woman does want to work in STEM or, do mechanical engineering or something like that, I don't think there's anything mentally making them less superior able to do that.
Again,
I
there's
think
exceptions to
reason
the
they're not-
rule. I just
Exactly.
explained that. I explained
So
that
I
to you. I
think the
said,
only
for
problem-
every one woman that's
Okay.
brilliant,
Yeah.
right, that like has a 150 IQ, there's going to be 10 men that have that same level of IQ.
And do you
Does that
think
make
that's
sense?
biological? That you don't think that has anything to do with the system or like the way that culture is, traditionalized in America? or
Men
in other
typically tend to
countries?
be on the more extreme side. So there's more genius men, right, than women, but there's also more men than women. So we dominate both spectrums of the side of the
Wait. Say that. Can you
equation.
say that one more time? There's more genius men and more retarded men.
Yeah, so we dominate both sides. So most geniuses are men.
Most geniuses are men. Okay.
Yes,
That's
but
one claim.
also on the negative side, most are also men.
So where do you think fall in that equation?
They're kind of a little bit more in the middle or so.
There's just like
Yeah, they're
little
kind of more in the middle.
so-so-
But what I'm trying to tell you is that the people that push the needle for society are the geniuses, and those are the men.
I mean, I guess, but I don't think that's biological.
It is.
I mean, you can stand on that point, but I still think you're overgeneralizing the statement and making it into something that it's not by making it an individual conclusion of a generalized statement. So, I mean, I did actually enjoy that conversation. I don't think
Do
there's
you
anywhere
guys
else
get
to
it?
go.
I don't know, man. It's just like, dude,
I mean,
look,
I
don't know if
feel
some
like
girls
this
in the
is part
crowd
of the
that you want or something, like, and you're trying to, put
What's up?
the cape on. I said,
up?
I don't know if there's like a girl in the crowd that you're trying to have with, and like, hey, baby, I'm gonna
fuck
fight this guy
plenty of
for you.
bitches. I'm not worried about people in
But
this crowd.
But like, the fact that you don't understand like the basic concept that like men and are different and that absolutely influences the way that we view the world, which then also influences what job fields we go into and how we perceive things. Like, this is just the truth, and it's been shown in many different ways. Like I said, with using Scandinavian countries, whatever. Men and are different. Does that mean that there are that could do what men do and can be geniuses and rocket scientists? Sure, but there's not enough of them to go around. That's my point. If we had to rely on female ingenuity only, we'd be.
All right, well, I think that's all I need to hear from the argument because I do understand your point. I don't think we can come to an agreement, obviously. But, I appreciate the conversation. I think that was pretty productive. So thank you.
Who's up next?